Hello, welcome to Healing with podcast. I am Marissa McDevitt, your host, mindset coach, mentor, and founder of Healing Center. Tired of all the BS? So was I. This podcast is my raw, unfiltered take on life, sharing my personal experiences, lessons, and healing practices that helped me break free from the cycles that no longer serve me. I'm just an average woman who decided to stop settling and start speaking up. Here we dive deep into the messy, beautiful, and sometimes painful realities of life, business, and relationships. No fluff, no judgment, just real talk, real growth, and real transformation. This is a safe space for anyone, women, men, and all the beauties in between. So who's ready to raise their standards, heal, and step into their power? Let's learn, grow, and evolve together. Now tune in and let's talk about it. Episode 8. How I went from being betrayed by the closest people around me, homeless, to now living the dream life I always imagined, and it all happened in 1 year's time. So today's episode is about the truth of miracles, the reality of life, and the energy of manifestation. We're going to acknowledge that the transformation isn't always glamorous. It's real, it's raw, and it's spiritual. We're going to jump right into the beginning of where I was when I was surrounded by narcissistic, bipolar, and just right out evil people. And they were the closest people to me at that time in my life. So imagine being extremely close to these people. Like, at the time I was in a relationship with this person. My two closest people I lived with for over 2 years. They were like my family, like my sister and my brother to me. And then an old friend that I got really close with turned on me, so I let her go. And a year later, she called me crying, brought her back into my life, and she did it again to me. So I'm going to explain how I went from being around who I thought were the closest people to me when really they were just the most evil, narcissistic, bipolar, nasty lessons that I had to go through. Became homeless because of the situation, my choice. And from then, the growth of transformation into where I am at today. So what I want to explain, right, is you hear this phrase, narcissistic. And I want to give you the definition of what a narcissist is. A narcissist is someone who often displays an inflated sense of self-importance, a deep need for attention or admiration, and a lack of genuine empathy for others. While not everyone with narcissistic traits is diagnosed with the narcissistic personality disorder, NPD, the behaviors can still be emotional, harmful, especially in relationships where power, control, or manipulation are present. Narcissists often operate from a deep inner wounds and unhealed trauma. They create masks of charm and confidence to protect their fragile self-worth. These masks can be confusing, especially for empathetic, kind-hearted people who want to see the best in others. The reason why I say this is because I have never dealt with narcissistic, bipolar people like I have on this level until these 3 people entered my life. I went from not really, I didn't even know what a narcissist was. I wasn't really aware that people could be narcissistic, bipolars, psychopaths, until these three people entered my life. I would love to give you some red flags and signs that you might be around a narcissist, because I wish I would have known this before, but now I do, so here we go. 1, they constantly make everything about them. So conversations are one-sided and your feelings get dismissed or minimized. 2, they love bomb you, then withdraw. So intense attention in the beginning, followed by sudden coldness, distance, or manipulation. This one was huge. My ex-partner, my roommate, and my old friend would all do this, especially my roommate and partner, ex-partner. Be there for you like nobody else has ever been there for you. Act like, you're like a goddess on a throne. That is how much love bombing they would do. And then they would extremely withdraw. And I believe this is where the bipolarness comes in too. Obviously, I'm not a doctor or whatever, so I'm just telling you my life experiences, my actual experiences with narcissistic bipolar people. Now, my old roommate was bipolar and narcissistic. My ex-partner was narcissistic. Bipolar, possibly. My ex-friend was just narcissistic, absolutely evil. Could be bipolar. I don't really know, but I know for a fact that my ex-roommate was in fact bipolar. She was on medication. I was warned when I moved in with them, and I did not take the signs. So if you know anybody who is literally on bipolar medicine and warns you, hey, I'm on this medicine, just be aware what you're getting yourself into. That's all I have to say. All right, signs you might be around a narcissist. They gaslight you. You're made to feel crazy, forgetful, or overly sensitive when your concerns are valid. My ex loved to do this. Every time I would bring up a situation, he would absolutely gaslight me. So, for example, when I first started dating him, he explained to me how he was non-monogamy and he, doesn't want to do anything monogamous. He likes open relationships, all the things. So I was like, all right, well, I've never tried an open relationship. I'm like, I'll try it. And a week later, I found someone that I would totally be in an open relationship with. So I called him up all excited that hey, all right, I'm going to try this, being open and communicative like you're supposed to be when you want to be in a non-monogamy type of relationship. And absolutely didn't not work, right? So all of a sudden now he didn't want to be, when I called him out on it, saying hey, you're the one who brought this up, you were, hell-bent on it. Well, what it comes down to, right, is he wanted to be open, but he wanted somebody to just be on him and not be open, right? That's just a little example. The lack of empathy. They can't put themselves in your shoes or understand your emotional needs. Number 5, they don't take accountability. They blame others for their mistakes or behaviors, rarely apologizing sincerely. My ex-partner was like this, and my ex-roommate was like this. All the time. Blaming everybody else for the reasons why their actions and whatnot. Number 6, they play victim. Even when they hurt others, they find ways to twist the story so they come out looking innocent. This was my ex-friend. Oh my gosh, she was the queen of playing victim. And like, I've never, ever seen anybody this good, honestly. Every single time she would make up stories, and this is how she would get men too. She would make up stories on what was going on with a past friend or a past relationship and say how they hurt her so bad and how they left her here and they were so evil to her here and she was just so heartbroken and upset, and really it was her being psycho. But she twisted the story and always came out looking innocent. That's how she got me to be friends with her. That's how she twisted my friend into having her live with him for over a year rent-free because she kept telling him all these sob stories when really it was her being an evil person to everybody else and everybody outcasts her. But yet she twists it and becomes a victim and then preys on people who are empaths and have a good heart and uses them to her full extent. Now, she is an ex-stripper. So, not saying all strippers are like this, but honestly, 99% are, because that is their job, is to manipulate and play victim and use people. That's how they survive, right? That's how they make their money. They manipulate the men that come in and play victim and all the things. So she was great at it. Number 7, they need constant validation. Compliments, attention, admiration. It fuels them and they become upset if they don't get it. All 3 were like this. My ex-roommate would just be so nasty to her husband when he wasn't constantly filling her with compliments, attention, and admiration. And when she didn't get her way, she would call him the nastiest things. I mean, just total, like, emotional abuse to this man. It was so sad. My ex-friend, just like this too, constantly needed attention. Everywhere we went, she needed all the men to be constantly wanting her. If she didn't have a guy wanting her, she couldn't have fun. She was like that everywhere. My ex-partner needed constant validation, constant admiration, me reassuring him, right? And yes, there is a love language, right, of that, but you will understand the difference between the love language of, affirmations and filling your partner's cup with security and attention and compliments. And then you'll know the difference when it's a negative validation, right? When you're understanding like, oh, like they need it because, it's fueling them. And then when they don't get it, they get really upset. So if I wasn't constantly giving him compliments, he would get really upset and we would get into a fight for no reason. Number 8, they manipulate through guilt, fear, or control. So you start to feel like you're walking on eggshells, questioning your worth, or shrinking to keep the peace. Oh my gosh. Especially in my ex-partnership. Oh my gosh. Questioning your worth and shrinking to keep the peace. I cannot even tell you how many times I was in that relationship and I'm like, what? Like, we would get in a fight for no reason and he would just like totally turn everything on me. And I was like, I almost felt like I was the crazy one. Like, wait a minute. I didn't do anything wrong, but they're so good at manipulating. He was the master manipulator. That was like what he did for his job too. And walking on eggshells of like, I had to word things a certain way so he wouldn't blow up. Right? Insane. Same with my ex-friend. I would have to shrink myself and not like tell her too many good news, because if I told her too many good things that was happening in my life, she wanted to become me. That's what happened. She wanted to become me because I was having so many good things happening and she wasn't, that she was trying to embody who I was. I've never experienced that. I've heard about people who do that, but I've personally never experienced it. So I wanted to give you a little rundown on what a narcissist is and the signs, the red flags, the signs. And I'll do a little recap. 1, they constantly make everything about them. 2, they love bomb you, then withdraw. 3, they gaslight you. 4, they lack empathy. 5, they don't take accountability. 6, they play victim. 7, they need constant validation. 8, they manipulate through guilt, fear, or control. So now you have the rundown on what a narcissist is and the signs, which is how I decided to become homeless, right? So like I said, I was with my ex-partner for about 5 months. I was living with my roommates for over 2 years, and I had an old friend that was in my life. I was on a cruise called Groove Cruise. It's one of my favorite music festivals. It's a music festival on a cruise ship. Y'all should look it up. Goes out of Miami. Awesome, awesome. My ex-partner at the time, he came on the cruise with me. And I knew immediately, like, this probably wasn't a good idea. However, like, everything was paid for, and, the signs were immediately like abort mission as we went even on the cruise. The whole cruise was a hot mess. I did not let my friends know too much of it. I still had a good time. I'm a very grounded individual. However, it was absolutely atrocious to be on this cruise with this man. Lesson learned. I get home and my roommates of 2 years give me this paper showing me proof of my partner at the time, like telegramming all these like hookers and whores, on the side and whatnot. I appreciated it at the time. And so, of course, I call out my ex and, tell him like, hey, I just got this proof, and we're done. Like, after the cruise anyways, I was so done with him. Well, he's such a master manipulator that he literally convinced me that he was going to hire a FBI agent to go through. I mean, all this stuff, and my silly self at this time was just like so overwhelmed. I believed him. So, don't worry, guys. I only believed him for a few days and got rid of everybody. But we're going back to at that point, he convinced me to believe he's crying and, I'll hire this and hire that. And so, I go back in and I say to them like, hey, I appreciate you showing me this, but right now I believe my partner and I'm going to look more into it. Well, this triggered my narcissistic bipolar roommate, which as it should, she was trying to show me she is a narcissistic bipolar person and did me so wrong. Does that mean like I don't think that she did have a good heart deep down? Deep down, I believe that her heart had a little bit of hope in there. And that goes for all of them, right? All 3 of these people. deep down, they do have a little hope in their heart, which is why people like me, who are empathic, good-hearted people who see the good and potential in people, they want to help people like this. They want to give them chances. Anyways, back to the story. Triggered her, and I have a narcissistic, crazy psychopath partner at the time who's a cheater, drug addict, all the things. Going through that. My roommates that I've lived with 2 years, absolutely done everything with, adored them. She decided to get off her bipolar medicine, a few months back. So she was having manic episodes, but they were never towards me until this situation happened. It got so bad that she decided to go behind my back with my ex-friend, who this whole time was, like I told you, wanting to become me. She did it with my last house that I moved her into, and she did it again. So my old friend, narcissistic, evil person, she has such trauma in her life and such a terrible life and just destroys everything around her that when she sees something good, she wants to be that person. So what she did was, while I was on the cruise, go behind my back, start talking to my bipolar roommate, and I have no idea what she did, but so much that she turned her against me, like she did with this happened twice, with my old roommates, and she was trying to move into my bedroom where I was staying. She was trying to do all the things that I was doing with them. It was demonically weird. Demonically. Like nasty. Hey there, beautiful soul. Quick pause here to share something magnetic with you. I am inviting you to join me June 27th through the 30th in Puerto Penasco, Mexico, which is also known as Rocky Point, Mexico, for the first ever magnetic mindset retreat, a powerful 3-day experience designed to activate your inner power and align you with your higher self. We're talking daily sound healings on the beach, Reiki session, 2 curated transformational workshops, exciting excursions like riding ATVs through the desert, horseback riding on the beach, a vibrant welcome party to set the vibe with dinner, delicious breakfast and lunch included daily, and every evening is open for you for your own soulful adventure. You'll have the choice of a shared room or a private room with your own bathroom. Flights and transportation are not included, but we do offer a shuttle from Phoenix Airport to the retreat in Rocky Point for an additional fee. This experience is for anyone 21 or older who is ready to shift their mindset, connect in community, and embody their most magnetic self. Spots are limited, so you can check on my Instagram, Facebook, DM me. I'll have the link below so you can apply. And I cannot wait to meet you in paradise. Much love. And let's get back to the episode. So now my roommate and I go at it. She's upset at me because I didn't believe her about my ex-partner's thing, which I ended up, 2 days later, I did, obviously. I just was so overwhelmed by everything going around me that I couldn't really process anything. So I get rid of my ex-partner, leave him, absolutely toxic. Now, my old friend, I get rid of her because I found out what she was doing. And now my roommate, who is so close to me, is off her bonkers, manic, bipolar, psychopath, crying, screaming, yelling, cussing. If it's not at me, it's at her husband. It was insane. This all happened in a week. 1 week. So the place I lived at for 2 years, peace, she got off her medication and went absolutely insane. So, of course, what do? The tipping point for me was waking up. I wake up early. Everybody knows this, and I'm working. So I was working 10-hour days, and I always pay my rent early. So I paid my rent to my roommate like a few days before all this stuff happened. And my roommate was sitting in the kitchen just like with these demonic eyes. It's 5 a.m. She does not get up that early. Okay? She doesn't get up that early. She don't even work. She doesn't work. She just sat at home on her phone, constantly watching like drama TV. It was sad, honestly. But the tipping point was I woke up, going to work, and she's in the kitchen and starts fighting with me. I think I grabbed like a cup out of the cabinet, and she said something like, "You don't need to use my cup for your tea," or something like that. And I was like, oh gosh, here we go. So she starts screaming at me. Then she starts recording me, calling me all these names. And I see her recording me. This girl's psychotic. And I just kept saying, like, why are you being so evil? And I'm trying to just like have her look at herself because she's just demonic. I'm like, why are you being so evil to me? Never done anything wrong to you. Literally, she is absolutely insane. And I'm keeping it cool. She's saying the nastiest things to me. Absolutely nasty. And I know that it's not her. Actually, that is a question that I have. It's like, bipolar, schizophrenic, narcissistic, evil people. When they take medication, it masks who they truly are. I feel like bipolar, narcissistic people, that's truly who they are deep down, is just evil. And when they go to the doctor and they give them these pills to mask it, it just masks the evil. And then when they take that off, the evil comes out. So me being a light worker and being an empath, I want to think that deep down she's not like that. And that deep down it's just her having a manic episode and she's absolutely just nuts and needs to be put in a hospital ASAP. It was bad. So bad. I had to lock myself in my bathroom. I called my father. I told him what's going on. And my dad said, abort mission now. Take everything. Get out of that house. She's absolutely insane. You don't want to be around people like that. She needs to be admitted to a hospital. You got to get rid of everybody. And at that time, I had nowhere to go. I don't have like family here. And the little bit of friends I had, I'm not going around telling people my business. This is like, I just got rid of my ex-partner. I just got rid of a friend that did me wrong twice now because she's just absolutely evil and nuts. And now my closest people to me, my roommates, are off the bonkers too. So like I was hurt. I was confused. I felt like everything around me is collapsing. But I knew my dad was right. I knew he was right. And for people asking like, hey, what did the husband do, like with your roommate, like, because they were married, and I felt bad for him. Like I could leave and he couldn't leave. He was trying to admit her to the hospital for weeks. She wouldn't do it. She was evil to him. I mean, I heard the things that she would say to him. She's a disgusting human being. It's so sad to see people on the other end of that too, who are so manipulated by people that they take this emotional abuse constantly. And he would just smoke so much weed to just like ignore it or, oh, it's not that bad. Like, bro, it was bad. It was so bad. Fast forward, right? She ends up leaving him, leaving her dog, leaving him, and runs off with some other guy after stealing settlement, not giving him a dime, and took off and left. This is the kind of people I was dealing with. And I didn't even know it. Which goes back to the signs of what narcissistic people are. And the signs of, if you find out that people are on bipolar medication, do your research on being around bipolar people. Because things can shift immediately with people like this. Luckily, my roommate, the husband, he was absolutely, he gave me a hug. He apologized. He knew that she was wrong, but he was in a bad situation. Like, he's married to this evil person and he has to deal with her. I don't. Like, I can leave. He has to stay. So I was upset at him because he was letting her be so evil and not telling her to knock it off, not sticking up for me more, to be honest. However, looking back, I understand, like, he was in a very hard position. And still to this day, like, he's still manipulated by her, even though, like, she's been left him, took everything. Once, like, he still talks to her. It's just so bizarre to see how manipulated and, like, low self-worth these victims of narcissistic bipolar people have. Just completely, like, brainwashed and manipulated by evil. It's so sad. So I listened to my dad and I'm like, all right, well, I will put everything in storage and sleep out of my truck if I have to. Like, I got to get out. I was moved out of there in a week. My ex-roommate, he did make a rule and it did work. So I do appreciate him so much. He did tell her to stay away from me for the week that I was there, just so I could move out. And it actually did work. She did. But the crazy part is, like, I seen the immense bipolarness in her go from manic, crazy, destroy everything to, like, when I was moving my stuff out, try to, like, offer help, like, be almost like going back into the love bombing. But then she would catch herself, like, oh wait, no, I'm supposed to be, hating her because that's what me and her friend are doing right now. We're going behind her back and hating her. It's like, what the? Anyways, I move out. I have nowhere to go. And my friend, Brittany, bless her heart, she reaches out to me and says, girl, get your butt here. Bring your dog. Get your butt here. Sleep in my room. You can sleep in my bed. Like, you don't have to pay me rent. Just come here. This is a safe space for you. This was the best blessing ever. I drove, across Phoenix. It was like an hour and a half and moved in with my friend in her bed. She let me sleep in her bed for months. And meanwhile, we thought she was allergic to dogs. She's definitely allergic to cats, but so she was, and she is a little bit allergic to dogs. She was flaring up a little bit, so I had to really, like, keep, the hair and everything down, but she let us come in, even though she was allergic to animals, even though I was sleeping in her bed because her, the other rooms were filled and whatnot. Like, she reached out to me when I had nowhere to go. That was the light in the immense darkness that was around me. She was my light. And if you ever met this woman, you could tell she's a light worker. She is an angel. She is so divinely connected, and I am so blessed to have her as a friend. But she took me in when I had nowhere to go. And if y'all are wondering, hey, what happened to the friend, right? So we found out we got rid of the ex-partner. We got rid of the roommates. What happened to the ex-friend that's psycho and wanted to be used? So her and my ex-roommate become besties, right? Because that's what my ex-friend does. And widely, I always said, I'm like, she's going to destroy their marriage, or they're going to fight, or like something weird, because like they're both psychotic. Well, come to find out, my ex-roommate found out that she was absolutely insane too and evil, and everything she said is a lie. And so they quit being friends. And there goes my one friend that, destroys everything around her again, turned everyone against me, and it tried to be me twice. Like, how crazy is this? I can't make this up. I should have a TV show. I should have a TV show of the craziest things around me. Anyways, that's why we're talking about my podcast. Woo! So, this is what I'm saying. This was an energetic test, right? From the universe. So, lessons versus loops, and how to know you're being called to rise. And choosing healing over bitterness, openness over fear. During these times of my ex-partner being on tons of crazy drugs that I didn't know about, hooking up with whores on the side that I didn't know about, and just absolutely being terrible. My ex-roommates going off the deep end, my ex-friend going off the deep end. I chose to stay grounded. I blocked my ex, didn't ever talk to him again. I got rid of, moved out of my roommates, didn't ever talk to them again. And my ex-friend, blocked that one, never talked to them again. I wasn't like, I need to get back at them, I didn't have that at all. For those of you who don't know me, Marissa, when I was younger, I was all about retaliation. Okay? When I was in high school, for example, I got expelled for fighting, right? I caught a felony at 17 years old because I retaliated against this girl that was not talking highly of me and doing me wrong and talking bad about my family. I caught a felony over her. So when people do me wrong, I fight back hard. Oh, I fight back hard. And I will come on top. Even if I go to prison or jail, I fight back hard. However, this time, I chose healing. I chose to be open. I seen the evil in all of them. I knew that this was a test. This was the last test. I felt it. I'm like, this one was going to break me. I almost ended up in the loony bin, right? I was like, how much emotional stress does this universe think that I can handle? Because one, back in the day, Marissa would have put that roommate to the floor by her throat and showed her what crazy can be like. Back in the day, Marissa would have found the ex-friend and, did some damage. Back in the day, Marissa would have went to the ex-partner and popped all the tires. You know what I'm saying? So the amount of growth I have overcome over the years of knowing that all three situations were not my doing. They were full of all of their projections and evilness, and just all I could keep saying is evil because that's really how they are. So how things shifted. I met my now beautiful partner a week after I met my ex-partner that I talked about. And I'm telling you, I feel like the universe laid out hand in hand both of these men at the same time, and I connected with both of them. And remember in the beginning of the story when I said, hey, I found this person I'm going to be in an open relationship with. Like, I found the guy, like, hey, I'm excited. And my ex turned it down. That is my now partner. That is my now fiance. That is my now soon-to-be husband. So let's look at the situations. This was the universe giving me my energetic test. If I would have chose my now partner, my now fiance first, none of this would have laid out how it did. And some of you are saying, oh my God, Marissa, that sounds so good. You should have chose your partner now. No, it would have never worked, you guys. It would have never worked. The reason why? He had to go through, my partner now had to go through the lessons. He was going through his own lessons with his ex-girlfriends at that time. I was going through all my lessons at that time. The universe gives us these lessons so we learn. Once we learn from the lesson, we evolve in a higher vibrational frequency and we align to the path we're supposed to be on. And we are called, and if you trust and you follow the path, you will end up where you're supposed to be. When all this was happening and I moved out and my friend took me in, me and my dog in, I was still talking to my fiance now. I was talking to him a little bit. He was actually working on my razor at the time. Him and I have the same colored razors, just opposite frames. So he was, I think he was putting in my whips, which are like light up flags that you can put on your razor. And I would come over to his house. I think it had to be like a week after all this stuff happened. And I came over to his house and he invited me in for the first time. And y'all, when I stepped into this house, I felt at home immediately. It was the most wildest feelings. He took me to the backyard. It's a beautiful backyard he built. Absolutely beautiful. The house he built, like everything is absolutely perfect, gorgeous. Everything I always imagined, manifested, prayed on, burned spells on, it was here. I felt so safe and seen and secured by him just immediately. It was the most gut feeling of a knowing that I've ever encountered, which was so bizarre. Because imagine yourself going through what I just went through of so much betrayal, so much narcissistic behavior, everybody lying, everybody cheating, everybody being evil. And here I am having this knowing that this man that I'm talking to is my safety. This man that I'm talking to is my security. This man that I am sitting next to is him, is it. I just kept having that feeling. It was so bizarre. And for people who truly know me, I was an extreme avoidant, anxious attachment style. So I would avoid, especially because I've been hurt so many times in my life. But for him, I remember sitting next to him that first day that he invited me to the backyard, cracked open a Bud Light. Everybody knows I drink Bud Light. And we sat down and I was like, you know what? This is what I've been working on. I need to lean into this and I'm going to be open and I'm going to be honest. And obviously, I didn't tell him every single detail. Like, hey, here's my whole crumbling life. I didn't say like, but I was open. I was honest. And we ended up hanging out like almost every day. And when I stayed at his house for the first 3 weeks, you guys, we slept outside in the backyard on a daybed with his gardens around, the trees are around, the hummingbirds would wake us up, we would rise to the sun. It was the most magical, beautiful experience I could have ever had at that time during the most chaotic turmoil of my life. I went from 4 people who I thought were close to me to destroying my life, from having Brittany, this beautiful angel, invite me to her home, to having my current fiance now, having this man welcome me into his home and just nurture me in the most peaceful and stable way. I realized that everything I was praying for, everything I was manifesting for years, this was it. This is what the divine timing looks like. When everything goes from ashes and I rise from them like a phoenix bird. How does this happen? Y'all, I have done the work. And when I say I've done the work mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Okay? For years, I have been on YouTube constantly watching relationship stuff. I've been constantly doing my affirmations, meditations, working on myself in all the ways, learning from my experiences and lessons, right? I love to think about this whole situation, from being homeless to being engaged and going to marry the love of my life in a beautiful, secure, peaceful home with garden and my business that I've created. I went from being homeless to creating a business, working for myself, living in a home with my future husband, all in 1 year. And that is because I've done the work. When everything around me was collapsing, I leaned into my work. I leaned into spirituality. I leaned into my meditations. I was in a 1-year program with my coach, Mary Hope. Love her. She is currently my coach still to this day. And she helped me lean into the meditations, to the journaling. I cried, I laughed, I prayed. I was working out 5 times a week. I went hard. When everything around me collapsed, I turned it around and went deep into myself. I went all in on myself. So deepening your spiritual practice and faith is so huge when things around you feels like they're tumbling. Really, really embody your spiritual practice and faith, which I want to talk about the collective parallel and miracles in the midst of collapse. So just like everybody around me right now, they're all talking about the collapse of the economy, the political views and, America, and where everybody's talking about a recession. And I do believe that, a recession's possibly going to happen. I do believe that, all these things are changing. But what people don't understand is that you cannot live in fear during these times. Well, Marissa, what do you mean you can't live in fear when there's a recession going to happen? And we don't know about this and we don't know about that. And, everything is uncertain. Perfect. Everything is uncertain. Embrace it. This is the perfect time to dive into yourself. This is a perfect time to dive into your practices, connect, and start manifesting your life that you want. Dream journals, praying, guidance. We have to have everything collapse. You have to watch the old systems die to rebirth the new earth. It isn't the end. It's the rebirth of the world. And you can choose to live in the fear base of the world. Oh my gosh, this president's in, we're all doomed, tariffs, all the things. Guess what? Or you can live in the positive of it. And we need tariffs to get back our economy, to get all the trillions of debt we're out in. They're slowly bringing us out of. You can choose to focus on yourself, turn off the news, turn off your social media. I'm currently on a 30-day detox. I'm going on week 2 right now. Turn it all off and focus on you. Focus on your life. focus on what you want to manifest, what you want to bring into this new earth. You can focus on, why don't you focus on the food awareness that's happening in America? They just got rid of all the synthetic dyes that have been poisoning us and poisoning our kids. The old systems were not working. You have to understand that. When the old systems aren't working, it has to end. So we end the synthetic dyes because they're not working. They're poisoning us. They're killing us. It's a proven fact. Watch tons of documentaries on it. We're taking them out of the foods. We're making America healthy again. Right? So that is how you can shift and reframe your thought processes. Oh, the fires that are happening in California. I personally believe they were started. I personally believe it's, has to do with the New World Order and the smart cities. Do I live in that fear-based thought system? No, I don't. Do I know that everything is going to grow back in that area? Yes. When there's a huge mass wildfires all over, it's death for a year or two, and then it's beautiful lush green that comes back. That is what's happening. That is what happened in my own life. My house I was living at, my relationship, my friendship that I let back into my life, all were in flames, burning, ashes all around me, burning. I was I was heartbroken. I was at my lowest point mentally, but I stayed grounded. I stayed in my truth. I stayed in spirit. And what happened? I rose from those ashes. I manifested the beauty and magic in my current life. This isn't bragging. This is testifying. We rise out of the ashes and become the phoenix to show what's possible for others. So you must trust the divine timeline. You have to stay open even when you've been hurt. And I know it's a lot easier said than done, y'all. But trust me, from my stories, you have to stay open. Learn your soul's lessons so you don't have to repeat the cycles. I gave you the example of how I used to be and how I handled the last situations. Stay rooted in gratitude and alignment. Do your affirmations in the morning. If you have to immerse yourself in, little notes all over your house just to remind yourself, then do it. That's what sticky notes are for. So I just want to let you know that you are one decision away from a miracle and that you have to keep going. Your life can shift in 1 year. I am living proof. As long as you stay open and in gratitude and in alignment, you can literally go from homeless to owning a business and having the best relationship you ever imagined. And I invite you to reflect. I invite you to journal. I invite you to reach out to me if you need support. If anybody's dealing with any situation like this and you need a little bit of guidance, please reach out. Journal your thoughts. Journal them, put them in there. Journaling is so powerful, so magical. I want to end on an affirmation. I am open to divine timing, aligned with my soul's path, and ready for miracles beyond what I can imagine. And with much love, have a beautiful day.